The fight that awakens you. It's been my experience that a man needs a fight in his life. If he gets lethargic, lazy, kind of gets plugged into the comfort of the modern times, he loses that fight, that passion, that deeper why, that purpose. You know, it used to be that before the modern times of relying on this like global world infrastructure, the availability of food and connection and just all these other things that had to be created, we were motivated by fear as a human race, as men. We had to go out and actually do something about if we needed to create something. We had to face the fear. We had to find that deeper drive. We had to find that deeper action taker within us. So we've been living in kind of this weird reality where that's almost become optional. Sometimes you'll see it as men being more passive or being more feminine. And so it's not a good look, right? There's been a lot of talk about like, where are the men? Where are the warriors? Where are the men that are stepping up? And I think that there has been an agenda to try to get men to be a bit more passive. I see that very deeply. So reawakening that fight within us really requires going in and facing the first fear that's honestly coming up in the moment. If you're like me, you've experienced fears of insignificance, lack of purpose, lack of clarity, lack of direction, where it can manifest as being stuck and just not knowing what to do, maybe kind of going through the motions, you know? Maybe it's a job, a business, a money situation, but it's not really the thing. It's not really igniting that fight, that passion, that courage within. And so there's an alchemical process to be said here, turning lead into gold. The lead being the fear, the being okay with being comfortable in uncomfortable situations, but not doing something about it. And so the gold becomes, let me go into this. Let me take a deeper introspective look within the self. The first time I experienced this was around 2015. I was in my mid-20s. I was a construction project manager. I was killing it in terms of job performance, but my health was shit. I went through a breakup with my son's mother. You know, I had brain fog, I had digestive issues. Basically, I was borderline going through a mental health crisis. And life was starting to feel a bit trapped. I didn't have purpose, direction, meaning. And oftentimes I was avoiding what it was that I was feeling inside, the uncertainty, the fear, the doubt, going out, drinking, hanging out with friends, smoking weed, basically anything that was a thrill, essentially, right? The nightlife, even just going to the gym and dieting into a crutch. There was a lot of vanity in it. I was running from myself. I was running from what was going on within me. And so it got to a point where I couldn't ignore that anymore. My experience has been that eventually, if the fears are not faced, it catches up with you. And so there was a layoff, lost my position, essentially. Money all of a sudden started to become an issue. It was never an issue really in my life until then. And I ended up catching my fucking house on fire, not paying attention, had to move in with my mom. And here I am with my son living with my mom going, how the fuck did I get here? So talk about coming to a crescendo moment of having to face like the fear of like, what's going on? Where's my life going? Because I went from, got the college degree, construction management, crushing it, had the girl, but then boom, didn't work out. Things started shifting, changing. So it's like life very much felt like it was off the rails. And so first I had to try to work on my health, which was shaky. It seemed like nothing I did was helping. And I got to this point where I realized that I needed something else. I needed to go deeper. I needed to look more at my mental, emotional, and even spiritual process. I essentially didn't really have any faith at that time. And so I'm not saying this is for everyone. I'm not promoting this, but what worked for me, that was really the blast off moment where I was really able to go deeper with the fears that I was starting to face, but to really be forced to face them, was sitting with plant medicine. It was sitting with ayahuasca. And so it produced this sort of spiritual awakening, this pivot point within myself, where I started seeing myself differently. I had clarity, I had purpose, I had direction. I was moving away from this very left brain dominant bodybuilder, was in a fraternity in college, construction manager, to finding this thing I'd been searching for my whole life, which is like, who am I really underneath the societal imprints of who a man's supposed to be in terms of his identity, or the family expectations, what people expected of me. And so it was a bold move. I was stepping into more of this metaphysical path as an astrologer, as a breath worker, as a hypnotherapist, all these things, right? And I did it with a lot of thrill, essentially, because it felt liberating, like that purpose, that direction, that meaning. But the thing that I learned rather quickly was, sure, you can go and do the plant medicine and you can face the fears, but there's an integration, and the fears just don't go away. They come up again and again and again. So that ayahuasca journey was at the end of 2017, the first time I did it. And since then, it's become a realization that for me, going in and facing the fears day to day is not optional, because if not, I start fibbing to myself. I'll start, playing small. I'll start hedging on something that feels like a safer bet. And not to get too fear-mongery, but if you've seen the headlines with things going on between Palestine and Israel, some of the riot stuff going on in this country, the security and stability, the systems that we relied on, they're shaky at best if they're even working. So we're being activated again as men to kind of flip that switch of that masculine warrior survival energy to figure out how to not only survive, but to create the next steps to take in our life. Like what do we do if the way that we relied on the comfort zones to avoid the fears, the anxieties, the distresses, what if we don't have that as an option? And so there's this moment that's happening where we can kind of catch one of the final early trains, if you will, to not have to wait to face this, and to actually go in and face the fears within us, the fears that actually drive us, unless we face them, unless we alchemize them, and see what is it, with asking with curiosity, what is this trying to protect me from? Like literally going within. It's the warrior that goes within himself and faces this dilemma, and it's a path of surrender. It's getting out of the mind. It's not labeling it. It's not judging what's happening, right? The masculine MO is, I got to do something about this. I got to take an action. I got to fix this. I've got to boom, 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 logical, linear. That works, but how do we know if it's actually taking us in a right direction that feels soulful, that feels purposeful, that lights us on fucking fire inside, that actually finds that courage, that passion, to live on the edge of life, to kind of accept, in a very Viking way, like, yeah, I want to die on the battlefield because then I can go to Valhalla. Like what the hell, our number's gonna be punched at some point anyway. Could be decades from now, could be tomorrow, who knows? So playing in the comfort zone and avoiding the fears versus going, you know what? We have an undefined X amount of years on this planet. We're heading into a space where there's so much uncertainty and doubt. The world needs masculine leaders again. And because the captain is calmest during the storm, the calm energy doesn't come from avoiding the fear, suppressing the fear, fighting with the fear, struggling with the fear. It comes from riding shotgun with it. I always say riding with fear, it's Ricky Bobby that tames his fears, gets back behind the race car and has the tiger, whatever it is, literally riding shotgun in the car. It's not running from it. It's not suppressing it. It's literally just going, it's making friends with that fear. Because we're stepping into a place where we can't run or numb it out. And so the fight that I believe that can awaken us, similar the way that it did me back in 2017, it's rather simple, but it can be really uncomfortable. And it's a wax on, wax off Mr. Miyagi process, like wash, rinse, repeat, like every day when we wake up, facing those fears, facing those uncertainties, those doubts. As one mentor used to say, FUD, fear, uncertainty, doubt. And the thing is that sure, it can be a discipline, it can be a check-in, like, hey, where am I at today? But it's also facing what can seem like the emotional inconvenience of when we're not feeling strong, not feeling centered, feeling that fear, that uncertainty, that doubt, and going into it anyway. So my invitation to anyone watching this is to ask yourself, what is the struggle that you may not be facing in your life right now? What is the fear? What is the anxiety, the doubt that comes up on a reoccurring loop that is actually by design there to get your attention, to go deeper into it, to find that sense of perseverance, to go into that fear, to make friends with it, to find purpose. And there's a piece here too that it's very spiritual, and it doesn't matter what your belief is. It doesn't matter if you believe in God, you believe in more of a new age spiritual idealism. It doesn't matter. Like at the end of the day, it is this piece of going, I have to trust that I can go into this fear and that I'm going to be okay, that I'm going to figure it out, that I'm not going to die, that this fear is not going to destroy me, because it's actually the running from and the suppressing the fear that is the destroyer. And so it's a deep trust fall and going, you know what? There's something that I'm connected to that's greater than me, that's guiding me, and accepting that everything that shows up in front of you, like on your path, is by design to help you get to your next step of your evolution. And so as men, facing whatever that emotion is, facing whatever fear that is, ironically, living your purpose in the now is just that. Like we tend to glorify, my purpose looks like this. This is my purpose, this exact definition, or I'll live my purpose when it's like purpose is lived in the moment. Purpose is accepting that we're here for a finite time and that there's got to be a deeper meaning for why that is and what to do with that. And so that facing these fears that ultimately, where every fear really boils down to the ultimate fear of death, it's like we become free to live our purpose because we're no longer hedging, we're no longer playing small. And I can blow smoke up your asses and tell you that it's like a one and done thing. But the truth is that it happens in cycles. Sometimes things fall apart and things get shaky. We have stuff happen. We have issues. Maybe it's an issue in business or a pivot. Maybe it's a relationship pivot. Something happens and it becomes this thing where we have to hold ourselves accountable and face that fear at a deeper level than we have before. So I do have a free handout for anyone that's interested in actually going into their fears from like more of a structured, disciplined, practical process. And so if you want to get your hands on that, just drop a comment, drop an emoji. And it's basically just different, mostly meditation exercises that you could do to actually hold yourself, like focus and see what's really going on underneath. Because it's, you know it, I know it, it's so easy to get distracted and overstimulated and do activity after activity. And so actually pausing to reflect, not for too long, but the efficiency of reflection, of actually going on and facing that fear, that emotional undercurrent, is the thing that creates the clarity that gets to the next step that becomes a living of purpose. Because what this is doing is it is the evolution of going from basically Homo sapien, man, like I think therefore I am, to Homo luminous, like the evolved human that has an intuitive side, that feels guided by not impulse or just gut feeling, but by something that it becomes this inner knowing. So the fight that awakens you, face the fear. It's really that simple. Appreciate you all. Take care.